Hey everyone, I'm Katie Ikataz, Fractional CMO with HAB Strategy, a fractional CFO services partner designed to transform your business with expert financial support. Welcome to Good Habits, the place where we discuss the realities of owning a business, its challenges, and empowering entrepreneurs to achieve financial success with HAB Strategy founder and CFO Dave Berney. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Katie.
So glad you're here. For those that don't know, Dave is a certified CPA and ACA who has worked with companies all the way from global giants like Grant Thornton, US Bank, and Pfizer to smaller and fast-growing North American startups like Influx Technologies, Legacy Plus, Instant Risk, and more. And if he didn't seem busy enough, he's married with 2 kids under 5 and still finds time to play sports, to do interviews with magazines, and most recently and formally mentoring other business leaders in business network group Sound of C and tech incubator DMZ. Let's go.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No, healthy body, healthy mind.
Nice.
Still haven't retired from the sports.
Yeah, as you
Keep
should
going
not.
strong.
What's like your sport?
My sport is actually an ancient sport. It's one of the oldest sports in the world. It's called hurling. It's native to Ireland. It's very similar to lacrosse, but big green field. We have these things called hurls, which look like lacrosse sticks, but without the net at the end. Balls run in the middle, 15 on 15, and
We're just calling every hurler to our content right now with this with this summons.
yeah, true.
I mean, I know today
Yeah.
we're going to talk about a lot of things, including hurling.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited that we're going to have a chat. I know there are many business owners who are multitasking with everything from sports and family to their actual business fundamentals, financials, fundraising, and more. And so we really wanted to bring everyone together today to talk through the concept of fractional CFO services, which sounds very scary. And personally, it sounds like you're going to critique every decision I've made up until this point if we were to work together. And so just to set the record straight, is that the case?
No, it's very, very different to that. And I think fractional is something that people have started to get very familiar with in the last couple of years, but people still don't really understand what it is as well. So I think traditionally in the finance accounting space, a lot of people would have worked with an accounting firm who might have also been helping with their bookkeeping and then doing their tax returns at the end of the year. So just like the very bare basics, very focused on compliance. Then on the other side of things, they may have dealt with what people in their career who I consider maybe semi-retired, like well-connected, very helpful when it comes to capital raises. They know they have connections that can make that happen. We sit somewhere in between. We actually, when we work with clients, we are very deeply embedded and we're actually just an extension of their team. So instead of working with someone who might be seen as kind of an external party, we're actually, say as an example, picking up emails with the name of the company. At the last, that'll be Dave at, client company name 1, client company
Got
name
it.
2. So we're part of the team. We're as invested as the business owner is, as well as the rest of the management team. So there's definitely nothing to be scared about.
Nice. And because you're embedded in these businesses, like what is it about actually becoming integrated with these businesses and working on solving real problems? Like what is it about that draws you to do this fractional work every day?
I think small, medium-sized businesses have a very important part in the cultural makeup of like a society or a community. The small, medium-sized businesses are those businesses that are actually giving employment to people in your neighborhood or in your town or in your city. The first half of my career, I spent a lot of time working with the global multinationals, which in a way seem a little bit faceless. We didn't, we would have a CEO. Did we ever see him? No, we would see him maybe on a video call, or we would see pictures of him, but he's located in a different country. Things are running in a very impersonal way. You've got thousands of employees. Sometimes people just feel like a number as part of a cog of a bigger machine. The thing I love about the startup space and the small and medium-sized business is, number one, things are happening so fast.
Yeah.
And there's so much potential and there's so many things that can happen in a good way. But then secondly, they never seem to lose the family feel as well. Like you always feel part of, very connected as a group. almost feels like an extension of family as well. And that's the thing I love about startup space.
And there's something to be said about like, okay, we got to figure this out. I think, in our both of our respective backgrounds, there is something to be said for a lack of red tape, where it's
Yes.
like, okay, we need to do this. We have a certain amount of time. We have only a certain amount of people or finite resources. And like, what can we do with this? And what can we make with what we have? And I think there's something to be said for startups, especially in innovation, that people get really motivated and excited by the possibility. Have you found in your experience that that comes to fruition where the possibility is turned into a real result? And if you have, what was that like?
Yeah. As you bring that up, I think about I was on site with one of our clients yesterday, and they had about 20 something people in the office. There was about 20. It was funny. I kind of was looking around and reflecting and thinking, rewind 2 years ago, and it was literally 3 people. So in
Wow.
the space of 2 years, they've gone from 3 people to 20 people. We came in at the start of that journey, and essentially at that point they had just gotten their like first round of funding, seven-figure dollar funding.
Mhm.
And the owner turned around to me and said, Dave, like, I've been trying to do everything I've been the bookkeeper, I've been the CEO, I've been the head of marketing, I've been the chief salesperson. He's like, I need you to get us caught up now that we have this funding. Like, we're on a good trajectory. Like, we've proven that the product works, but I need to make sense of these financials. I need to get us caught up. We've been in business 7 years, but in terms of like our actual financials, like other than my bank balance, when I look at like a P&L, I have a blank sheet of paper.
Wow.
So yeah, so
I have to say, I'm kind of surprised. I guess when I see business owners of any level, I weirdly assume that there's financial fundamentals in place. And, obviously you have to go through the process of registering your business and trademarking and building a team and getting all these functions in place. I don't know why that I've assumed the financial fundamentals are put in there too. I mean, amazing that somebody can build a business with a great product or service for 7 years. But then that would scare me as someone coming in like fresh eyes. That would kind of scare me to hear. Other than that number, it's a blank slate.
yeah,
We're like, what do you feel when you were told something like that?
I think actually in a way it makes sense to me. I've seen bigger companies where the non-customer facing side is very messy and it
Mm,
feels like it's patched together. And our job is to actually build that out in a very sustainable way. So I kind of liken it to, going faster, going far. So I've seen these businesses that can push ahead and get to a certain point, and then either they just stall or it all falls apart.
right.
It's like like them being in a car, putting their like foot to the pedal, but meanwhile like the oil tank is leaking, which kind of like as an analogy is like cash flow. So they get bigger and bigger, and they think they've made it, but like behind the scenes things are just like chaotic, and they're just burning through cash, and then eventually they just put themselves in this unsustainable position and they're out of business. As opposed to what we try and do is we build that side of the business in a very sustainable way as well. Things that the business can do when they're at a six figure, is that being done in a way that would enable them to get to like a nine-figure growth.
Right.
We do a lot of that, put a lot of very sustainable systems in place, make sure information is moving around properly, making sure information is going to the right decision makers. We're not patching things up, we fix things at source. In terms of scalability, then if you're kind of moving from a low volume to a very high volume, there isn't a lot of incremental extra work because we're very technology driven. We use a lot of technology tools for processing invoicing or sending out customer reminders or forecasting cash. We just put a lot of those tools and systems and processes in place early, and then the business can focus on growing in a very sustainable way.
Because of all of that hard work that's gone into getting those elements correct, what is the like 5-step process that HAB Strategy has? I feel like it's a great introduction for people that are trying to get to know the company, but also into making sure your fundamentals are in place. Can you just share more about what that 5-step process is?
Yes, we from my years in the multinational space, I think you start to pick up certain proven frameworks, and you kind of steal those ideas from the big multinationals who have been around a long time and have seen like a lot of growth, not just a lot of growth, but like they're at that level and they're staying at that level. They're public companies. So one of the opportunities that I saw was these type of frameworks were actually missing in the small and medium sized business space, and I actually felt like it was a great opportunity. So taking those lessons that I learned, I developed a unique 5-step model, starting with an overview of the financial processes, the underlying financial processes, because that essentially is your first step of like in terms of being sustainable. Then progressing on to having a sightline, not just on a very basic P&L or balance sheet basis, but actually understanding the key drivers within your P&L as an example, or the key drivers within your balance sheet. So a sightline on the not just the revenue of a customer, but the profitability of a customer, which is like
So important.
so important, exactly. Or being able to understand from your balance sheet what your working capital is. So taking a wider view than how much cash you have in the bank on any given day and thinking that you're in a good position or a bad position, actually taking into consideration all your current assets and all your current liabilities. What have you still to collect? What have you still to pay? What loans are outstanding? Do you have tax liabilities that need to be paid off?
And that's super helpful to know, because now you understand what your runway is. You can mitigate any potential unexpected risks. If something pops out of nowhere or tariffs hit your business or
Yes.
anything, you give much better line of sight into what you can do next.
Yes, exactly. Step 3 of our model is peace of mind compliance. So very standard for every business. A lot of businesses get the compliance and that's where they stop. We try and take a bigger lens on it as well. So I'm talking about if you're a fintech, you need to be compliant with FinTrack or FinCEN, depending on whether you're operating in Canada or the US, and need to have that know-how on how to actually set your business up in a way that is something that is in line with regulations. There's dealing with the IRS, there's the CRA, make sure you're doing the right thing from a sales tax perspective, a payroll tax perspective, corporate tax perspective. If you've got multiple companies within your group, having transfer pricing agreements,
there's so much to this.
There's so much to it. Yes, and I have a benefit in a way that as part of the CPA, we have to study business law as well. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of these smaller businesses, I end up overseeing the legal function as well and making sure we're good from a legal perspective, because there is a big overlap in that regard.
I do think it's super helpful because, again, just from the outside looking in, knowing nothing about fractional services for a while, now that I'm more educated about it, now I understand that the support for this complexity is there, and you don't have to be, a $100 million company to access this kind of service. You can be a lot smaller than that and still be making a great impact with the business you have. But to know that I can work with someone who will not only understand this, but offer guidance for strategy in the right way because of these things, it definitely is the peace of mind part of it. I actually love this part of the 5-step process. I'm sorry, what's the next one?
The CFO scorecard.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us more.
So this gets back to focusing on the key drivers in your business. We are unique in a way that our key focus is actually growing profitability, growing the business, growing profitability. Those other accounting and tax firms out there, they're focused on compliance. We're sitting with the business owner and we're talking about big picture goals and how to get to there. So we present not just key financial metrics like gross margin or staff cost ratio or your current ratio or what your working capital is at or what your monthly burn or cash runway is at. Right. We also try and focus on some of the very important non-financial metrics as well. So we'll work with the sales team on what does the sales pipeline look like. We'll work with the marketing team. What's your customer acquisition cost? We'll work with the operations team. Like how many products have we got? How are they performing? Get that sightline on different parts of the business. Mm-hmm. And we try and focus on a way we build a scorecard in a way that you can actually see trends very, very easily. So revenue trends, expense trends, profitability trends. So it's much easier as a founder then to actually see what's working, which of my decisions are working, which of my decisions do I need to pivot or maybe put a timestamp on and maybe give it a certain amount of more time, and then try something different if we're not seeing any progress.
And as a former salesperson, selfishly, my mind goes immediately to like quarterly performances to say, when you work and you're kind of married with, of course, you are always working with marketing, but when you're married to someone with finance, there's a different depth of understanding. Okay, here's where we're at. Here's where we need to be. Here's like, we're not coming back from this, or we're going to exceed expectations. And there's a lot to be said when sales teams, marketing teams, finance teams can have very brutally honest conversations. And the fifth step?
So the fifth step is the most sophisticated and it's the fun part as well. It's where we start to do the forward planning for it. So we do 1 year planning, which people typically refer to as the budget. But we also do multi-year planning as well to have a better idea of where the business is going. Even recently, I sat down with one of the founders that we support and we did 8 years of financial planning because we felt this is the potential within the business. We're not going to make a lot of money in year one, but as the years progress, these are the things that could happen and these are the goals, and we feel we could take it to, and this is like the bigger payback because people are taking that into consideration when they're putting upfront investment as well. So having that kind of insight, knowing you're able to take that overall lens of this is the return on investment if I were to produce the capital for that. So for the budget, there are typically like two approaches we do it. If they've never done a budget before, we'll do a thing called like a bottoms up or build it from scratch, and essentially just figure out what are all the different components that need to happen in the business, like the people that are needed in different functions. How much do we need to spend on marketing? What does that look like? Who are the vendors? What are we spending on travel, if any? Where's our revenue going to come from? We use like a weighted average approach and consider different tiers of probability and risk. So being really aggressive, and if things work out perfectly, this is what we could do in terms of revenue. Or if these circumstances happen, we might do this lower in revenue. And then we just build accordingly. So we try and factor in risk into the revenue. And then likewise into the expenses. And then we have a plan B that if things work really well, then it opens
another
access to this investment. But things are going badly, like these are the first areas we're going to cut. So just is basically like plans within plans within plans, and helps keep everybody on track. And if things are starting to slide off course, it's a great benchmark to actually get back on track like very, very quickly. And it's just a good framework to run a business.
Which I love. I mean, it's great. It's 5 steps, but they're very specific and they're helpful when you're trying to adapt in your business depending on the market. And ultimately, you're going to be super clear on your data points. You're going to have these plans on plans. You're going to be able to work collaboratively and ultimately stabilize or grow your business. So it's pretty exciting.
Exactly. And it's a huge competitive advantage as well. A lot of businesses try and wing it, and winging it is not a plan.
Yeah, I hate hoping for the best. So I like a plan and a plan and a plan. Do you find that it's easier to speak from the strategy and tactical levels with the teams first, or is it better to speak with your C-level counterpart about overarching strategies and tactics before you work with the teams?
It depends. I don't think there's one size fits all. It really depends on the business. And businesses come in all shapes and sizes, and role names can be deceiving as well. So one person might be the go-to for everything, and other times you're actually going to people in your team because they just don't know, and you're getting those insights that way. It's a great question. I will say that I'm lucky that it's not just myself and HAB Strategy. We have a great team as well. And that team is in a position to actually spend, therefore, more time with different people. Like they can spend time with marketing managers. They can spend time with the business development rep. They can spend time with the, like whoever is working on the product side, like which can look different in every company. But we essentially are collecting more of that insights of seeing what's working. But there's one important thing that I think I should mention as well, is because you talked about your prior life in sales and marketing as well. And the benefit that looping in a finance person into like not just the founder, but your key people within the different departments, is finance sees everything, sees all the data. And I think of times where I might have a conversation with sales or marketing, but I can give them a more holistic view, because I can say, yeah, but you also need to factor these expenses in. You're not seeing this, this travel expense. You're not seeing like, this is what the total salaries are like. And so you can help people make better decisions in terms of how they're allocating their time and their resources as well, because everybody is typically on the same wavelength that we need to do what's best for the business, but they can be dealing with gray areas. You can bring some clarity to them, or they just don't have sightline on things, so they're kind of making this like what sometimes uninformed decisions, and it's the job of the finance business partner to actually help steer them in the right direction.
And let's be honest, like, you're in sales, like, you're painting a beautiful picture about how this performance is going, but like the numbers don't lie. Your finance person will tell you the truth. Yeah. I mean, and it sounds like, again, because of yourself and the team and how integrated you are with these businesses, and as you've heard, you really get into it in terms of strategy and tactics and performance and working holistically with all the people involved at different levels. What would you say are the biggest financial challenges that you've seen over the past year, in working with different businesses, that you think are worth speaking about?
The biggest challenge, I find that it doesn't matter about the size of the business, or the circumstances. Everything always comes back to cash flow. I think even the businesses that get to a good point that they have actually collected a healthy amount of cash, it's not even smart to just sit on $2 million worth of cash. If you're lucky enough to ever get to that point,
Right.
it's not even smart to just sit on it, because with inflation, it just erodes into it anyway. And you want to be putting money to work. And the whole idea is putting money to work and continuing to get returns on investment. But there are those very passionate founders as well that just don't know how to plan accordingly or plan ahead, and they try and do it based on like a feeling or a whim. And that's where I step in and help. I help them develop a long-term cash, not just a cash forecast, but based on that, we can actually come up with a cash plan. Do we want to put money into a GIC? Do we want to, is now the time to spend more money on more marketing? Do we have the capacity to take on more customers? Is it now time to upgrade, different technology that we have in the team? So just helping them put it all together. But at the end of the day, also making sure we're in a good position should the worst case scenario happen and we happen to lose like a big customer or two big customers, we can still continue to make payroll for, anywhere between 3 and 6 months.
It's super helpful because in 2025, the business landscape seems like it's evolving, and there's many different challenges that different organizations are facing. Would you say that when planning for the rest of the year, when you talk about going into the next 5 years, the next 10 years, are you having conversations with founders and owners that are looking to fundamentally shift their business in response to what's happening this year? Or do you mostly see people wanting to stay strong with what their current expertise and product and services are at this moment?
I think the founders that I've seen that have been successful are the ones that keep a very agile mindset. They have a plan, but they're also prepared to pivot. They recognize that they're going on a journey and things are going to happen along the way that is going to force them to recalibrate at different points. But they do have a bigger vision of where they want to go. I agree with you. 2025 has started off. There has been a lot of uncertainty, in particular with the tariffs. In particular, we have this whole new wave of technology with the AI bubble.
Yeah.
People, I see it myself. One of the businesses we work with are building AI agents, and it's exciting. It can be good and bad. It depends how you embrace it and stay ahead of the curve. I think I disagree a little bit though in terms of painting 2025 as an outlier. I think for many, many years, there have been many different challenges that businesses have had to take or have had to face, I should say. Technology has just been evolving like year over year over year, the last 50 years, 100 years, 150 years. Like
Sure.
what might seem like a big transformation to us with AI right now, if we rewind back, 10 years ago, and I think of like how paper-based we were, and then COVID came, and then a lot of the paper got scrapped, and like, new technology was designed, OCR technology to just digitally read invoices, things like that. And then, even the internet arriving like whatever amount of years ago it was now, 35 years ago. There has been like a lot of obviously changes, and that has disrupted businesses, but it has also created a lot of opportunity as well. And like websites and digital marketing and Google ads and LinkedIn ads. And I think the business owners that are responsive and are ready to pivot and keep an open mind, but also have the right advisors on their team as well. Not trying to be it's very hard to be the CEO and be the vision and see where the business is going, but also trying to be the bookkeeper for your own business.
It's so true. And I think part of the excitement with the innovation of technology, of course, is that it saves time and it's maybe more cost effective. It's also, I feel like it's a big risk as well, because things are constantly evolving and we're not sure, will things get better or get worse? Are there, the humanistic side of me is like, these can put people out of jobs. And so I hesitate to like fully integrate with an AI tool like Arsenal, but a lot of businesses have done that. Do you feel like it needs to be one or the other, or does it mean you can blend AI tools and old school approaches, for lack of a better phrase?
I think there's always going to be a blend. I think there are, the AI is helpful to a point, but it's not dissimilar to technology that has come before. It's essentially a tool that will make people more productive.
Mhm.
I don't think not that it won't, I think it will replace roles. I don't think it will replace people. Let me just say that much. I
Okay.
still think there is a people management or people overseeing element, and I think it will help standardize some of the more manual work and allow people to do to focus more on judgment, creative, thinking big picture. I think it's going to be a blend.
Nice. And you mentioned it, but having the right advisors, especially as you're making decisions like this to improve your business or to pivot and move in a different direction, how important is it to have the right advisors from a financial standpoint, from HR standpoint? I'd love your opinion, having the experience that you do, having seen it at such a large scale and on a more startup scale. How important is that role of advisors in your opinion?
It's very important. I speak from experience. People sometimes forget, but I am literally running my own business, so I
That's
see
right.
all elements as well. So I see that the sales, the marketing, making the technology decisions, as well as the finance, the strategy, the vision, the HR element as well.
Right.
One thing that I have found as the business has grown that I have learned a lot and has been like a mirror back on me. I always thought I was very good at prioritization.
Okay.
And
You found out you were not?
you start to reflect, am I prioritizing the right things? You're constantly self-reflecting. And one huge benefit I have found is, number one, the bigger your team gets, the easier it gets for you. So sometimes it can be
Oh.
scary with actually building out a team, because you're thinking, I'm so busy right now, and then if I hire these people, then I'm gonna have to manage them, and I still feel responsible for this and that. It actually gets easier. It actually lets you focus more on what you're good at while they do what they're good at, and then you're just bringing them together. I'm a big believer of the sum of all parts is greater than any individual part. That's the first thing I guess I've learned as I've gone through the journey and our team has grown and grown.
Yeah.
The second thing I have found is there can be a lot of pressure as the founder to be making all the key decisions for all the functions, whether it be financial strategy, whether it be product strategy, whether it being the key salesperson or the key marketer,
Yep.
or implementing the processes and the technology that complements those processes behind the scenes. And so what I found is actually bringing in more senior leadership. And obviously it's a very sensitive thing when it comes to cash flow and cost wise at the earlier stages of a business. So bringing in a full time doesn't make sense in all the functions. And this is why I love the concept of the fractional model,
For sure.
where you get 100% of someone's expertise. That might be that is an expert in, finance, or is an expert in system implementation, or is an expert in digital marketing, or is like a killer salesperson. Bringing those type of people in on a fractional basis and getting all that expertise and getting their kind of there's some of their learnings, as opposed to myself trying to be the number one salesperson or the marketing person or the HR person. I find actually that level of new like management level on a fractional basis in our business has been massively helpful.
That's awesome. And I mean, do you think, in your opinion, because of that, do you think someone who's out there who wants to start their own business, what if they just started with fractional people entirely in every one of those departments? Do you think that would be a successful business?
Actually, no, I think there's a trade-off. I think you need to get the right balance, because I have seen businesses that have gone full contractor model.
Right.
The thing with the contractor model is you are paying a slight premium. So when you are not paying for people's security, they're the ones taking all the risk. If you're not guaranteeing a salary for someone, they're taking all the risk, and then they typically will charge more. So that's essentially how it works. You're not giving them the benefits. If you decide to part ways with them, you're not paying a severance. So the businesses that I see do well are actually the ones that do a blend.
Oh, okay.
So bringing in fractional expertise at the right levels, typically at like a higher level, and then where there is very busy roles where you know that something's going to be 30 or 40 hours a week, it's actually more economical and it's going to be more profitable for your business if you basically put a line in the sand and say, I'm going to take the risk on for making sure that you get paid every month no matter what.
Right. You're my full-timer.
You're my full-timer.
That's a good investment.
I'll take care of the cash.
Right.
You can plan accordingly. You'll make your rent every month or your mortgage every month or your living expenses every month. But if I figure this out and put everything together in a very efficient way, the kind of collective profit that you might make is going to go back to the owner.
Yeah, which is so cool, because I think growing up, we used to look at business kind of one-dimensional of it needs to be this model or that model. And it's really cool to see more and more businesses trying to pick up the right blend and what works for them in their specific industries. Just speaking generally to any business owner out there, like, what do you think are the main things that business owners get wrong when they're setting up their business? Let's say they even think through, the structures, of course, and compliance and legal and all the elements that, of course, are fundamental. But what do you think they actually get wrong when they're setting up their business?
I think the fundamental thing they get wrong with setting up or expanded even a little bit more, growing their business, is moving forward without a plan.
Really?
Yeah.
Just not having a plan, just go.
Just not having a plan. So it's one thing having goals, and I think a lot of people get to goals. Well, some people start without a goal, and they start and they see what happens, and that can be fair. But I think once you've established a go to market and you've actually gained some traction and you're moving forward and you're trying to grow a business but without a CFO mindset, and you haven't planned it accordingly, there are so many variables and considerations to successful business, and it's widely accepted, but I'm not sure if the audience knows, but 80% of businesses don't survive the first 10 years. There are actually a lot of factors that can actually have a business go bankrupt or go insolvent, or things are just not working. They just don't gain the traction. There's a lot of things to get right, and you need a plan and you need the right advisors in your team
Right.
to make sure that you're one of the 20%. So
And
I know it sounds scary. It's also exciting as well. Part of me is like, as we sit down with businesses, we focus on get them moving from surviving to thriving
right.
and beating the competition. Because
And
if you don't do something, your competition is going to do it and they're going to move ahead. So it's a constant, like, how do we continue to get a competitive advantage over who else is out there?
And again, it's as a business owner myself, like I always look at, well, let's just get customers, let's get the sales done. Like, well, marketing tactics, let's figure all this out. But the finance piece is sort of like a given. If you're a startup that's out there now and you hear this and you think, I have all those things, I'm gaining traction, I'm doing better, we've had ups and downs. And what you're saying essentially is look at your finances. Like, this is the space to take a look at. Even if you're surviving sales, you're surviving marketing, you're surviving is happening, yay. But really, the untapped space that we need to look at is the financial side of it and the financial advisory that you likely need to get out of that survival mode and potentially grow your business as fast as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes things can seem great at a glance. There's one business that I came in as their CFO for. And on paper, everything looked great. Doing 4 million in revenue, very successful marketing agency down in the US. Had, $250,000 in the bank account.
Awesome.
So on the face of things, looked great. As I got in though, there was, from experience, I could tell that there was more to the story than what these high level numbers were showing me. And
why is that? Like, what was it what were those indicators that were like flags for you to say something isn't quite right?
I think I know, based on benchmarks, how profitable like a typical business can be, and I've also seen like lead indicators of the businesses that are making the right decisions and things are going really well. They have like a very clear sightline of what has come before.
Mm-hmm.
With this business, we were coming in and everything was, they had been working with an accounting firm before us. Everything was being done on a cash basis. So number one, they had no idea what their margins were. So there was like ups and downs. They actually had no idea what their performance was or how profitable they were, because everything was just being booked on a cash basis. They had negotiated good payment terms. So they were very aggressive in terms of their customers collecting cash within 15 days, but then they'd negotiated with their vendors 60 days. That is great from a cash flow perspective and something that like we do as well. But what they were missing was the cash flow forecast element.
Right.
So with this $250,000, they weren't taking into consideration that, hey, we've collected a lot of cash up front, but the related costs are now are coming nearly 2 months later.
Right.
Plus, they had set up as an S corp, which is like a certain legal and tax structure in the US. And so as the owner had been withdrawing money, you can't withdraw money without it incurring some sort of tax.
Oh, okay.
So she had withholding tax that also needed to be paid, which she hadn't factored in. So she had basically seen a lot of money coming into the bank account. And, it was just too good, it was just too good for her to ignore. You see $250,000 in the bank account. And she basically locked herself into a spending lifestyle that was very unsustainable. So I was seeing these big amount of cash leaving the business. The owner was taking for herself. I knew very quickly that she hadn't paid any withholding tax. I knew that suppliers were going to have to get paid in a couple of weeks' time.
Right.
And I knew from a contingency planning perspective that
it was looking poor.
Yeah, there hadn't been any planning of like what happens if we lose a customer, what happens if this happens, the business slows down, or we're between contracts. So what we did very quickly within the first month was do a full 16-week cash flow forecast. And sure enough, it showed us that within 7 weeks, the business was actually going to run out of cash, was going to be in the red.
God. No.
Yeah. So
I mean, great that you could figure that out and have that conversation. But
we
like,
came in
unfortunate.
we came in just in time, and it would have been a whole different situation if they had kind of hired us. Well, they wouldn't have been in a position to hire us 3 months later. They wouldn't have had any cash.
Wow.
what was brilliant was with this cash forecast, we had a 7 week head start.
Right.
So we could actually do something about it. And we were, as like initially stressful as it was, that those 7 weeks were so critical on getting ahead. So we moved ahead with a couple of tactics. Number one was I spent a lot of time actually negotiating with different vendors, and the owner, given it was life or death for the business,
For sure.
felt we needed to take a very aggressive posture on the expenses. So some of the expenses, some of the longer term contracts that we've been locked into, I got sent as the CFO to renegotiate and bring those costs down, but then pushing back on some of the billing that we had received as well. Some previous bills, some things that hadn't been unpaid, and basically negotiating settlements with those
Amazing.
vendors. That was number one. Number two was normally you would review your cash on a monthly basis, or your 16-week cash on a monthly basis. We basically moved into emergency mode and started to review it on a weekly basis, but sometimes to the point that we were actually timing it day by day by day, going,
Wow.
we need to wait for this to happen on a Tuesday, and then this happens on a Wednesday, and then we can pay that on Thursday. So getting really, really detailed. It was like a very fine line. Number three was with our credit cards. So we did have some like strong credit card limit set up, but we're incurring interest as well at the same time. So hence we were striking a balance between how we wanted to draw on the credit card and then the line of credit, and then taking into consideration what we'd be paying on interest in those, which is foregone cash, but also trying to strike the right balance of like, it makes sense for this time span, doesn't make sense for this time span, or let's pay this first and negotiate a week longer payment term with this, and trying to get that balance right.
Right.
And then I also managed to get a $110,000 loan for the business as well. So we managed to negotiate with our bank.
This is all you negotiating this.
Me and the owner, like the owner
Awesome.
is involved as well. Because
So it's a collaborative approach.
It's a very collaborative approach. But basically managed to get an 18-month loan, like $110,000, which bought us a lot extra time.
For sure.
And then meanwhile, we're working on the business, we did like a full overview of all our software, because normally software can kind of be that like hidden, it's like a hidden it can turn into a black hole. Like you see all these small vendors, but then all of a sudden it adds up to 10 grand per month in different software subscriptions. So my team did a full analysis of month over month over month, what we were paying every single software vendor. And we started working on bringing seats down or cutting software where we didn't need it.
Yeah.
A lot of little small wins, but all added up to be substantial in the long term as you extrapolate it out over a long term.
And it sounds like because you were responding to what you were learning as time went on, when you're working collaboratively with the owner to talk through these strategies and then jump into tactical mode, was it difficult to have that first initial conversation with the owner to basically talk about accountability and responsibility? Like, what was the tone of those conversations when you first brought this up? Because again, you are a fractional CFO coming into a business that you've never been in before. You've done your assessment. You're now working through your model. And now is the time to have that conversation. What was the initial conversation like?
It's always a hard moment when someone comes to you and says, you have been withdrawing too much money from your own business.
Yeah, I just wonder about any business owner being told, you're doing too much and it's your own business. I feel like every CEO back just goes up.
Yeah, it can be like an emotional response to have to get told that. I think people know when they engage with us, they know they're bringing me in not to make them feel good, but to tell them the truth, whether it be good or bad. I always focus on data as well. I don't let myself get driven by emotions or how a situation feels. I focus on the data. We always make a commitment. We're in this together. We lock arms. We're in this together. We're as invested as getting this fixed as well. I am your CFO, and we're going to get this done. So it can be an uncomfortable conversation. I've had a lot of those over the years. It happens in every single business. There are so many things that can happen to a business, like losing a customer, or the big product launch that you hoped would go well didn't go well, or that big marketing campaign that you hoped would go well didn't go well, or you
Right.
push for growth and these new hires that you hired just don't work out. So I have experience of doing it. I try and do it in a nice way. I feel like the Irish accent can help
I
as
was
well.
gonna say, I'm like, I feel like my British mother can attest to this when she worked in a hospital too. She was like, I don't know why, but my British accent like helps this. I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. In Canada, everyone's from somewhere, so it
Yeah.
does work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, in getting through those conversations, and of course, this is at the end of the day about business. Um, do you feel like when it comes to then speaking with owners, when you're working with organizations that have board of directors or investors, what is the role that you play when it comes to speaking directly to those individuals? Because they're also essential to some businesses.
They are. I'll speak to the boards as an example. I'm the one I take the pressure off the CEO in a way. So without me, the CEO is presenting financials themselves to the board.
Right.
With me there, I'm the one that's actually presenting the financials to the board.
And do you get like board member with phone out, reviewing every number, questioning every number, grilling you with questions? I've been in some of those rooms, and
Yeah.
it's supposed to be intense. That's the point of it.
Yeah.
And you're the person supporting the CEO in that process.
Yeah. I actually take it as a good sign. The harder the grilling, the more questions being asked, actually, the better. I know
Right.
that we've got like a very heavily invested director, if that's the case.
Mhm.
And typically, I know that we're partnering with the right companies when we're getting that level of question. I'm comfortable. I think it all comes back to what I mentioned as part of our blueprint. When we build the finance function, we're building things in a way that it makes it very, very difficult for there to be mistakes in the data as well.
Okay.
Like we're kind of, it's almost like a funnel. It goes into the funnel, but there are control checks built within the funnel, and there's like a very solid process with repetition that if there are any anomalies, by the time it gets to me and I'm preparing the financials for the board, I know that the data is 100% accurate, and I can spend time just trying to interpret what that means, and if that means I have any different recommendations for the board.
Do you end up playing good cop, bad cop with the CEOs that you work with, or do you still keep it as a collaborative approach?
It 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 depends. I feel like part of my job is to help push the CEO as well and help them get out of their comfort zone,
Mhm.
hold hands a little bit, but get them out of their comfort zone. Help them try things, help them make data back decisions. If we're doing, we sometimes there's like a good cop, bad cop. I think it's easier for me to be the bad cop
Okay.
if there are issues moving it outside of the board, but if there are issues with vendors or with customers, they're like a difficult customer, difficult vendor, it's easier for the CEO as a relationship person to be the good cop and like preserve that relationship.
Yeah.
And me as the CFO to be a little bit more the bad cop of, well, you still owe balance.
Right.
Again, being very data driven about it and being nice and friendly, but also taking that pressure off the CEO as the relationship holder, but then trying to have a difficult conversation with a customer that doesn't want to pay a certain balance.
I'm just
I can be that
imagining.
person and just do the negotiations.
I'm smiling because I'm imagining you being like, you owe us this money for the 15th time. You owe us this money,
Yeah.
and being like, well, it's about finances, so
Yeah.
as many times as it takes. But
Yeah,
you owe us
yeah.
this. Pay it.
I had one or two of those calls today, actually, where I'm putting out calls or I'm putting out emails. Like basically, it's gotten to the point where the team has escalated up to me
Wow.
that we're not making any traction on this, and we need to get this collected. So I come in and
Time for bad cop.
Yeah, I've had many of those conversations over the year.
Yeah.
I think the conversations, I don't think I've ever got a particularly bad reaction. I think people can be more emotive over emails, but once you get onto a call with somebody and then you're just focused on the data and hearing them out as well, because sometimes they have like very legitimate feedback as well.
Yeah.
At least I can take that and process that and deliver back in a very non-emotional way.
True.
Back to like our internal team.
Right.
And makes it like an easier conversation. I feel like I can mediate a little bit better.
Yeah. Which is a skill in and of itself, because I think a lot of times it's just being able to take it in and not react. I've learned that many times over the years. The emotionally driven part to just react to something, it's like you gotta work that out. You can only do more. You can only do more and be more successful the more you manage that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about how businesses have improved and you and the team have been able to adapt to whatever challenge is coming your way. And again, it's blended or collaborative approaches depending on the business and the industry. Can we just talk very briefly about some of the signs and in your experience, if there's ever been an actual example? I would love to hear more. But ultimately for listeners, what are the signs to look for when a business is suffering and not rebounding?
Well, I always see it as a major opportunity, and it frequently happens when sometimes I come in and I see a finance function for the first place, for the first time. They don't have sightline on what has already happened. Like that's one big red flag.
And missing like data, just haven't tracked anything.
Missing data, big gaps in the data, unexplained data. There's essentially no connection between the story of the business and what the numbers are saying. Indicates information is like data is not flowing into information, and therefore you're not making data driven decisions.
Okay.
That's a big red flag. Not having a financial plan is a big red flag. Looking at an accounts receivable and seeing that a lot of the accounts receivable has become very aged. So something that should have been collected, 4 months ago and it's still sitting in accounts receivable, or 6 months ago and it's still sitting in accounts receivable. Or God forbid, I've seen situations where there's been accounts receivable and there's been balances that have been years and years old, and they're still sitting there as presumably an asset that's about to be converted
into
cash.
Hurts me. That hurts me to hear that. Like we need to get that money in. Let's go.
Yeah. Essentially just understanding your profitability is a big one, because I see a lot of times where businesses will set up and the unit economics don't make sense. So they might have gotten a lot of funding, or they might have put in the money themselves, or gotten a loan from a bank. And so they're focused on their bank balance. They're not paying attention to the profitability, or because they don't know how, like the structures are just not there. And they don't realize that every single month they are spending more than what they bring in. And it can be a little bit complex sometimes to figure that out and put things to the right time period and that regard. But it does remind me actually of a story where one of the businesses that I worked with before, they spent I think it was like about 90 grand on a big marketing campaign.
Okay.
And this happened, and it happened too quickly. It was like very early, and it had already been approved before I joined the business, and then it just kind of happened. And remember my gut instinct being like, that was just a really stupid idea.
And
like,
that it's too much to invest in a campaign at this time.
Well, it just didn't make sense. Just like when you understood like where they were doing it and how many customers that they could pick up, like the unit economics of how much sales they would have to have made to make back the gross profit on that. So, and then I think the thing with marketing is there's always a promise of, well, this is coming. Like it takes a year for this to happen, or 6 months for this to happen. So I think I gave it a certain amount of time, but I definitely put an asterisk beside it to come back to it. And I see a year later, that particular customer that we'd done the campaign, like heavily focused on this one customer, had done like 32,000 of sales at like a gross margin of 40%. So you're talking like about, 12 grand in profit after a year. So then and the thing is, I go back to the marketing team and like who were like heavily involved in this and had recommended this, and there's a complete disconnect between them and sales. They both were accountable for this.
Oh no.
And I said, do you know how much we actually brought in with this customer in the end? And they were like, no. I said, we brought in 12,000 in gross profit in a year.
And do you think like this is a common occurrence? I feel like it is. I feel like when marketing and sales don't work as a team, and a lot of times it's not because you don't want to work collaboratively. It
Mm,
is just a different line of sight into what success looks like, who actually does what. I think everything can ladder up to a strategy that we all are behind.
yeah.
And a marketing campaign, for example, is an exciting one. It's a lot of buy-in is there, it's going to generate sales. Everyone feels like they've done what they need to do, but I do always feel like the like third leg of the tripod here is finance coming back to close the circle to say,
Yeah.
what did it actually bring us? I think marketing and sales to some extent don't have the right line of sight.
Mm,
Do you think it's a risk to tell sales and marketing like
no.
the
I,
facts of what they need to do? Because I feel like this is like the gap that is constantly noticeable when it comes
yeah.
to this kind of investment on companies' part.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. We're big believer in getting information not to one point of contact, but to multiple points of contact so that they can all be making better decisions. And in this instance, they the kind of team involved, they they might have taken into consideration the sales, but what they wouldn't have known was the cost of sales.
Right.
So that's where I was able to come in and actually provide even more context. But I think it just got forgotten. Whereas when I look at every single expense, I think of it as an investment, and I'm always trying to draw some correlation with a return on investment, because as we're creating budgets and financial plans for next year or for the upcoming years, you want to make sure that resources are being allocated to the highest return on investment activities.
Right.
So there's always like a constant level of quantitative and qualitative analysis of like what we're getting. So we spent 90,000 on this campaign. We basically had 12,000 to show for it total. And I went to the point I said, I could have actually done more sales for you guys if I had taken the 90,000 and had gone into this customer and bought our product in there.
No.
I was like, I could actually have bet. We're expecting like this amount, you to be able to take this and grow it to this.
Right.
You actually took this and you shrunk it to this.
It's a tough lesson.
I could have got in and just spent the 90,000 and
we would have been sorted.
I would have done better than you guys, and you guys are the experts.
It's tough. It's a tough lesson, especially when especially in fluctuating sales times, when the market shifts, or you want to be creative and you want to showcase that there's another way to do something. And engagement is such a hard thing to get with customers. I feel like best intentions for that 90 grand, whoever that company was, but like, unfortunately, it's an expensive lesson to learn. But luckily, again, to work with someone who can strategically advise based on the data and based on proven strategies and evidence, can then come together and say, okay, here's what we do next time instead. And not every business wants to hear that. But again, I think it's critical, especially in the financial space, if you want to maintain or grow your business. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot for different teams to learn, which is kind of exciting. It's not just for C-level, it's for other teams and departments as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So this has been a great conversation, Dave. I just wanted to wrap up by talking a little bit more about you and HAB Strategy in particular. I feel like we've spoken a lot about, some of the clients you've worked with, and a lot about what it takes to make it in the CFO fractional services space. There's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of tactics, and the right partner can really make or break a business. But I feel like people need to know a little bit more about you other than the intro.
Okay.
So I asked a few people that we both know to describe you, and they shared verbatim that Dave is a hardworking, collaborative, determined, supportive, conscientious, and a proud yellow belly kind of guy.
Who said the last bit?
Guess who said that?
That's a Irish reference for anyone that didn't
Yes,
pick up
it
on
is. Can you explain that reference?
that. The part of Ireland that I originate from, we wear purple and gold jerseys, and so the purple is kind of across the chest, and then we have the gold just below it. So we picked up the nickname the Yellow Bellies.
Nice. Apparently, it means you're from Wexford.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I know these things. Yeah, and again, just in speaking with other people who've worked with you, and this being how you're described, I feel like it's important that people understand that because you're such an advocate for these specific businesses, it's not just a job. You actually want these businesses to succeed. Did you think when you first started this business with that mindset that this is where HAB Strategy would have grown from?
Oh, that's a hard question. Um, I think given on what I had done in the corporate 9 to 5, I knew that I had a lot to bring. I felt there was a lot of experience, there was a lot of know-how, and there was a lot of like roll up the sleeves is really important in the early days of a business as it's trying to get traction as well.
Right.
So I have a lot of confidence in both myself and my team as well. I headhunted I headhunted a lot of my team, like they're the best of the best.
Yep. And
Um,
lovely people too, to
and
boot.
lovely people too. Like I love working with them. They're great. So I think I saw this journey. I even as we talk, I don't think the journey's finished. I still feel like we're very early in our journey. I still think there's many bigger and better things coming as well.
Yeah. And what kind of businesses do you think you can make the biggest impact with moving forward? And knowing you definitely have a vision, you definitely have
Yeah.
a financial plan,
Yeah.
you have the right team. Who do you think you can make the biggest impact with in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So our real niche is tech startups that have already achieved they have basically have gone to market, have achieved product market fit, have started to see a lot of traction, things are moving fast, and they are in the 1 to 10 million range.
Mhm.
So not big enough to, at those early days, it still makes sense to invest more money on the sales and marketing. So hiring a full-time CFO is not the right call in the early days, but things are starting to get complex enough and they need to be considering tax planning, they need to be considering cash flow management, they need to be considering potentially raising more capital or spending money in the right way and making sure there's a return on investment. In that 1 to 10 million range, there is a lot of value to be got by bringing us on board. We specialize in QuickBooks Online. That's our go-to, and that's the only the accounting system we work with. But we've essentially got a whole suite of tools that interlink with QuickBooks as well, so that we are doing work in a very efficient way with, we use AI where we can, like draw out different insights. We just like build companies that have really great economy of scale and can keep going past the 10 million and then
Yeah.
hopefully outgrow us.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, if you're a business that wants to grow bigger than 10 million, here you go. Thanks again for your time today, Dave. It's been very insightful and a little surprising, some of the examples of things that you've worked through with the team, although not surprised to hear that it's worked out for the best, knowing you and the team. Would love just to share a little bit about where people can find you if they're interested in getting in touch or want to follow along.
Yes, so you can find me in LinkedIn, Dave Berney, Berney. I'm easy to find. You can find our webpage, habstrategy.ca, and you'll soon find us on YouTube.
That's right. Yes. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you got some insights on the world of fractional CFO services with good habits today and how it can help your business grow with someone who has seen it all. From if you made it to the end of this episode, tune in next time for new insights and meaningful industry conversations. Looking forward to it. See you then.
Thanks, Katie.
If you enjoyed that clip and you want more information, please email us directly at dave@habstrategy.ca or book a free consultation on our website, www.habstrategy.ca. You can also follow us on LinkedIn for monthly insights, job postings, and the occasional Irish luncheon update. Until next time.